Hi there. Welcome to the pod where spirituality is accessible and exciting.
Do you find yourself drawn to the magical and mystical side of life?
If you're ready to explore and expand your spiritual path,
Then you are in the right place.
I'm Jennafer.
And I'm Lola. We are modern mystics.
Sometimes I cannot breathe. I'll be coming out. Wanna look at me like I cannot breathe. I'll be coming out.
Well, I've been learning about spirituality sort of on my own most of my life, but I've been learning more about non-religious spirituality for probably about 20 years, maybe a little bit more. And the first time that I met one of my spirit guides was incredibly weird and a little uncomfortable. And
I love this so much already.
and I was like, what is happening right now? So I was very confused. I had this wonderful friend who was my mentor, and I said to her, so there's this spirit, and he's just kind of like hanging out in my spare room. And she's like, okay, well, did you talk to him? And I'm like, why would I do that? Isn't that like feeding a stray cat? Like, if I ignore him, won't he just go away? Because I didn't know what he wanted, you know? This is totally how my very overly practical brain processes things. I'm like, I'll just ignore you and you'll go away. But he just kept hanging out. And she was like, well, maybe you should talk to him. And I was like, well, what am I supposed to say? Like, this is like how painstaking it was.
Right.
So I go,
I love this.
One day I said, are you here for me? That's basically all I said. Are you here for me? Because, I mean, he wasn't like obnoxious or anything. He was just always there. And I was like, he must want something. I mean, my home is very calm, and I hadn't really always been able to sense spirits, but he was just kind of ever present. And so I said,
This is a flag, people.
Yes, I know, right? Which maybe should have told me something, but I didn't have any framework for that to tell me anything. So I literally was like, are you here for me? And he said, yes. And then I went back to my friend.
That's it. Yes,
Said,
this is the end.
Apparently he's here for me. And she's like, did you ask anything else? And I was like, no. What else would I ask? And this is kind of like how it went. Like, it was very clumsy. It was very, very painstaking. And it took so long for me to figure out that he was a guide and that he was there to help. Because really, I just hadn't really sensed anything like that before. And I'm so glad my friend was there to talk some sense into me and just be like, well, just, maybe you could ask him his name. Maybe you could ask him what he's there for. All these things that in hindsight make plenty of sense. But in the moment were very, very, like, just foreign to me.
Yeah.
And he turned out to be a spirit guide, and he turned out to be like from my ancestor line.
Makes sense.
And I didn't know him. I mean, I never met him in real life, but he's been very helpful and very practical and very patient with me ever since I was like, who are you? What are you doing here? Do you even care? Yeah. So I guess the reason I share this is because, first of all, I'd like to prevent anyone else from having to do this because it was so annoying and very like pulling teeth. And secondly, because what we're going to talk about today is more practical and maybe a little bit less painstaking ways to start like a real two-way conversation with your spirit guides in a way that feels more modern and up to date and not spooky or weird or painstaking. So that is what we're talking about today.
I love that you mentioned your friend. I too was helped in my first interaction with spirit guides by someone. And I wonder if that's part of it. And maybe we can be that for you. Maybe we can be that friend helping you get to know your spirit guides if you're just starting out, or meeting new ones. They come and go, right? So we'll get into it, but I
love that.
I love that that's part of this process is you're not alone.
I do too. And also, you don't need to be like a professional psychic to sense your guides. Like,
Right.
you don't need to be more spiritual. They're already there. It's just accessing them, being able to feel like you can really hone in on what you want to talk to them about, find a good, way to communicate and go from there. It's like any relationship, really. And if you start out ignoring a relationship like I did with mine with real people, then they might give up on you, but your spirit guides don't. So that's
No.
very good.
They don't. And your comment of they're always there, they're always around you. It's not like they're not there.
Yep.
I bet even if you stopped and thought back and just took a moment to pause, you might recognize some moments where clearly there was aid. That might be a clue for you of, oh, this is a way my spirit guides show up. Because they
love that.
have always been there. It's not like they're just coming in because you're listening to this podcast. No,
No,
they've always been there.
absolutely.
So I really love that idea of, hey, just start, reticular activation, buying the new car, turning on the reticular activation to I have spirit guides.
Yes, I love that. I also just feel like one of the good things, and maybe my clumsy story sort of illustrates this, one of the good things about guides is that they are, aside from being ever present, they don't really force their ideas on you or, and they're really there to guide you versus, I don't know, judge you or, yell at you or, I don't know, a lot of things that we're kind of taught with deities
Right.
don't necessarily apply as far as like you have to bend to their will or they're really just there to help you accomplish what you're looking for. But maybe we should talk a little bit more about what spirit guides are.
Yeah, we're kind of cart before
Yeah.
horse here, aren't we? You're right.
Yeah.
That's
Awesome.
a good point. I was just, I read copious amounts, watch copious amounts, and listen to copious amounts of metaphysical things. So who knows which of the three I was doing. But they were discussing archangels and how archangels are not a person. They are an archetype.
Oh, interesting.
And so many people can work with Archangel Michael as a spirit guide being. And they fit into maybe your council or your team. There's lots of words for what your group of spirit guides are. So keep in mind that as we're talking about some of these beings, we don't necessarily mean like the Archangel Michael and there's one.
That's true.
It's a
Yes.
class of being. Should I put it that way? Or I don't know,
love that.
race? I don't know how to explain
I agree, though.
human beings. So
I mean, they don't have bodies, so they can probably be in like 14 places at once if they really wanted to.
Yes.
So I think you're right. Like you can take these literally, or you can take them in whatever direction really works for you. Because just because I happen to notice someone loitering in my spare room does not mean that's what's going to happen to you, and what you might feel more drawn to, or what might resonate with you more is going to be very important and tailored to who you are. And I think that's really important because guides tend to know us as individuals, like what our learning styles are, what
Yes.
our blind spots are, where we need to develop, what we're already good at, all of those things. But I mean, in general, guides are just spirits that help those of us that have bodies, basically.
yes. And they show up in many forms. Usually they're going to show up in the form that is most comfortable to you. So, Jennifer's put together this great, I think, inclusive list. She's got
Thanks.
ancestors, angels, animals, ascended beings, mythical creatures, gods, goddesses. And have you ever like heard plants or the trees talk to you or have dreams that you're like, who was that? What was that? All of those forms can be spirit guides.
I agree. I've met a lot of people who have felt like their pets or their companion animals are more like guides than pets. So, whatever form they show up in, the idea is that they're really not here to judge you. They're just here to help you accomplish basically what you wanted to accomplish for this life. And I find like sometimes they're a little bit like specialists, whether it's like an archangel where, archangels are over specific things, or so are gods and goddesses. They tend to have like specialties, if
They
that's
do.
the right way to say
They
it.
do. Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it.
And so it's more like, I think they are more specialists in particular areas, or we have said to them, I need you to be a specialist in this area and keep me kind of on track, or that kind of thing. But they're not here, like I said, to judge anybody. They're more like spiritual mentors, if that makes sense.
I love that. Yes. And part cheerleader, part mentor. They want you to succeed. Some of my guides don't like, okay, we're getting into a very deep metaphysical realm here. So I'm going to use things that I've been taught. If you disagree with this, that's totally fine. But some of my guides, I've been told, are not ones that typically work with humans unless you've created some kind of agreement that you're going to work on a project and you've done it for many lifetimes and they've seen, you've proven.
That makes sense.
You've proven. So if you get to work with a specialist guide, they come and go for the project. We all have guides. Some of us come with whole big teams of guides that stay our whole lives. Some of us have one or two. It really depends on what you wanted when you came here and the spirits that wanted to support you on that mission.
I agree. I sometimes equate it to having like in the, I don't know, sitcom of your life, that your spirit guides that are here to help you kind of accomplish lifetime things are going to be like, they're going to be guest star. They're not guest stars. They're like co-stars. And then like there are spirits that come and go for different things. I've met people that have spirit guides simply to help them speak in front of people, like recall what they've prepared, or, be able to speak with a lot more confidence, or, so I think there's a lot of different like specialties, but we don't need them all at the same time. And so, but sometimes I also feel like they don't really operate in silos. They tend to talk to each other. They tend to work together depending on what they're here for, but they're helpers. And I also want to say, just as a little, I don't know, warning, that you have access to your guides. You don't need somebody else to tell you what your guides are saying. If you feel like you're having a hard time listening to them or connecting or whatever, that's fine. But just know that if someone just kind of starts telling you, well, your guides told me to tell you A, B, or C, and you could be like, okay, but that doesn't resonate with me. Like, just still really trust yourselves versus other people. Because I've noticed some people like to co-opt it a bit and be like, well, the only way you're going to know what your guides want is if you talk to me.
You come and see me over and over and over.
Gatekeeping and guru behavior and that kind. And you can talk to your spirit guides no matter who you are.
Well, and again, it is a relationship. So that would be like Jennafer and I have a relationship, but Chad over here has to talk to Jennafer and then talk to me and then talk to Jennafer and then talk. I mean, that's annoying.
Exhausting.
Yes. So it's like putting Chad in the middle of your relationship with your spirit guides. Maybe don't do that. So the other thing that I think is important to note here, it can feel, because they show up in a form that will be easy for you to see and accept. Like if you were raised super Christian, they're unlikely to show up as a devil because you probably wouldn't be comfortable with that.
Absolutely.
Though they can take any form, most likely.
Yes.
Their form is not attached to their abilities. It's for you to feel comfortable. So often I think people feel like they're making up their spirit guides.
Oh, sure. I feel like that's true of a lot of spirituality.
Yes.
I think it's pretty normal to just go through a period where you're like, is this just my imagination? Or am I having some sort of episode or is this like an actual spiritual experience?
The first time I met with Jennafer for professionally, I had attended a class she was teaching on the Akashic Records, and I loved it. And I was like, hey, I want to run some things by you. And because I thought I'd been working in the Akashic Records for a long time. Well, I didn't think I was. And then I attended her class and I was like, wait, actually I have been, but I want to check that. It's okay to check yourself with another person and have a conversation, because while our spirit guides, we can develop a way to speak with them often and clearly. And the more practiced you get, the easier that becomes. In the beginning, that can be really hard. And
I agree.
So having someone to bounce that off of isn't a bad idea. If you have someone trustworthy locally that isn't trying to get you to keep coming to them and being Chad. But now we have Chad in our
I love that
podcast.
Chad is like now a real figure in our discussion. I love that name. That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's really true. I mean, just kind of like when you're developing your intuition, it's nice to have intuitive friends to kind of bounce things off of or whatever. And I do help people connect to their guides often, but I do it so they can connect to their guides, not because I need to be the one who does it. I'm just used to them now because I had really weird beginnings with them. So
Well,
it's very hard fought.
Yes, exactly. And this is why this is a test, I guess, is if they're like, oh, well, your guides are telling me this. The only thing I tell clients usually, unless there's like a screaming message, is, well, they said they'll show you a red feather or they'll write whatever. This is how you'll know. And you can start, or you need to start writing whatever they tell me that will be easy for the client. 100% of the time, the clients are like, oh yeah, I do that all the time. Okay, well, that's your spirit guide trying to get your attention.
Yes.
So tune in a little bit. That's it. So that's a red flag if they're not giving you tools to meet and communicate with your guide on your own. They shouldn't be trying to step in between that relationship if they're good advisors.
I agree. They should just kind of validate what you already know or illuminate something for you. And I think that's important because honestly, guides are always communicating. I feel like they're very patient and they don't mind repeating themselves, which is good because goodness knows I wouldn't have gotten a lot of messages if they did. 'Cause you know how sometimes in religious practices, it's not considered very faithful to ask for signs.
Yes.
But spirit guides could care less. They'll give you like 5 signs and 13, synchronicities and a bunch of, like aha moments, all about the same thing if that's what you want. I don't feel like they're like, look, lady, we said this 5 times already. What is, I don't really get that.
I will warn you, at least mine. In the beginning, extra patient. At this point, if I were to ask for something 17 times, I'd get a little spice back.
Oh, I would too.
It wouldn't be so nice and easy as it was in the beginning. So just know
once you know people better.
Yes.
Yeah, same
it's
thing.
a relationship and they'll get attitudes with you, and that is their beings. They have attitudes.
Yes. And I don't advocate this, but I definitely argue with my spirit guides.
I mean, I advocate this. I'm for it. I think this is wise counsel. Go ahead.
I will be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would I want to do that? And which is not and literally I will hear things like, well, it's not all about you, Jennafer. And I'm like, all right. So they can be a little bit like sarcastic or spicier on the nose. Yeah.
And remind you that, don't take yourself so seriously. You're not the end all be all of all living.
Yep.
Turns out we're
That's
just
so true.
Yeah.
I also think they communicate a lot the way intuition communicates. So they communicate through our senses. They communicate through signs and synchronicities. Sometimes through divination tools. You can connect to your spirit guides with, a pendulum or cards or runes or whatever you want. And definitely in dreams. So there's a lot of different ways that they communicate, which I think is great. And like we said, they're talking all the time, but it's really easy for us to not catch the message the first time. So, I mean, whether it's just, we've got 14 things buzzing at us at any given moment trying to get our attention, or if it's our own stress or anxiety or self-doubt, or even like that conditioning to ignore a gut feeling, or
Yes.
to definitely downgrade it as in its importance because I don't know, maybe we favor logic more or, that kind of thing. And then also kind of like we were talking about, people wonder if they're just making it up or
Yeah.
it's their imagination, or what if I start talking to something and it's nothing? What if I start talking to something and nothing happens? And we just want to talk about really practical ways to talk to them because I think even though they are listening and they are there, because they're not here to force anything, they don't necessarily, they're not as obvious sometimes. And also, I think they wait for us to, slide into their DMs, for lack of a better way to say it. Like,
Oh, that's
they're
cute.
like, well, what do you need? You tell us and then we'll work on it, that kind of thing. So I think it's one of those things where it can be really casual, but also very intentional, right? I was going to say, most of the time, if you're sliding into DMs, there is an intention behind it. Sometimes it's not spiritual, but that's okay. But first of all, just, talk to them like you would a friend, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to, I don't know, come up with funky language or speak in like King James Bible
Thee, thou,
talk.
crap. No.
Yeah, you don't have to do that at all. Just talk to them like you would a friend. Like when I argue with them and I say, I don't get it. And they're like, well, you don't have to get it. And I'll be like, oh man. But you can set an intention and you could even be like, okay, guides, I'm ready to connect. Send me a sign or send me something that will kind of get my attention, that kind of thing.
Well, and if you've listened to our podcast on intuition and you've done any of those exercises from our Patreon, try some of those as ways for your guide to communicate with you.
Totally.
If you know the way your intuition works, that's already a neural pathway set for the guides to work through to communicate, speak with
Yes.
you, whatever it is. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to it because it's got some great tips and use your style, whatever that is.
I love that because it is very personal.
Very.
I tend to be an assimilation learner, so I learn things because I'm relating it to something else or I'm taking it into something I already understand. So my guides talk to me a lot while I'm listening to other people, which is sometimes very distracting. But I will be listening to someone and they're talking about, I don't know, their life. They're not even talking. It doesn't have to be spiritual. But then my guides will be like, that's why we keep telling you to do the thing. Or that's why we keep telling you to go, don't do the thing, like that kind of thing. So I feel like there's a lot of times where, if you know how they talk to you, it will be an enhancement to experiences you're having and help you kind of connect dots for yourself.
Yep. And if you're further along this path and you know some of your spirit guides, I should be ashamed to admit this, but here we go. Very similar to Jennafer's story, this woman covered in ash, witchy looking, like her clothes were torn, showed up in my guest bedroom. And I'm like, oh, I had just had a family member move out. I'm like, oh, you're hers. Go back, get out. I did that for 4 days in a row. Never once asked, are you here for me? And I had been doing this a long time. It wasn't the beginning of my
love
journey.
how dismissive we are.
Yes, like get out. You're not welcome here.
We're both like, oh, you're just loitering now.
Yes. Yeah. And finally I'm like, oh, duh, are you here for me? And she just like looks at me dead in the eye like, you're so dumb. I'm like, okay, yes, I am. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, she is one of the protectors of the land I live on. And she goes
beautiful.
with the house.
Got it.
And I just hadn't encountered her because my guest bedroom had always been full. She'd been there the whole time.
Yeah. She's like, I've been hanging out. You're just never in here.
I'm not with her. I'm with the house, you special person. So if your guides are switching or you move houses, things can shift. This applies to everyone because our guides are coming and going. And the more you're willing to work in the spirit world, which you're here part of this, part of our tribe over here of modern mystics, you're probably putting your toe at least in this water, and more guides may show up for you.
Yeah.
So I don't care how far along you are on this journey. Keep your ears, eyes, maybe keep your kicking people out to a minimum for a while you play with this.
I love that. That's so true. Some people experience their guides as like a little Greek chorus
Yeah.
behind them, like they just have their own little entourage. And but sometimes they experience it as everyone talking at the same time, which can be confusing. And so if you find that you're just getting muddled messages or whatever, then you can absolutely say, hey guides, I just need one of you to be the spokesperson, please, or
Yeah.
I just need one of you to talk to me and just, convey what everyone else is saying. But I don't find them to be difficult to know once you actually, ask them what they're doing in your spare room. But
Keith, these are details.
I know.
Details.
Jeez,
If you have
what's
a
the deal with
spare
the
room, I'm
rooms?
just warning
Yeah,
you.
I know.
It's a theme.
I know.
Chad, get out.
I know.
Oh, wait, you're the spirit guide. I see what's happening. Okay, thank you.
But, if you're a meditator or you're a journaler, you could just ask a question and kind of see what pops up to journal about, or what pops up when you're kind of in listening mode in your meditation. And just say, you could even just start with an intention of, let me know what I need to know most right now. Or let me know, I used to just ask, is there something I need to add to my day or subtract to my plans for the day? Things like that, and see like what popped into my brain or that kind of thing. And also, if you listen to our episode on dreams, we have a lot of different ways to track dreams and make sense of them. And guides can come into dreams really easily, mostly because we're not second guessing if they're real or if they're just loitering or both. And so kind of logging not just what comes through in your dreams, but if there are waking or things in your waking life that correspond to dreams, whether it's like signs or, different kind of landmarks or whatever, just pay attention to those and kind of connect the dots and see what might be being told. And just so you know, I don't think there's any topic that's like off limits with your guides. It's not like, when you think about spiritual leaders and you only want to bother them with spiritual things, because sometimes I will have bad knee days and I will say, I would love a great parking space so that I don't have to walk that far. And then,
I call them my parking fairies.
oh, I love that. Yeah, why not?
I need
Right?
parking fairies today.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying you need to do that, but I'm just saying even mundane things, they're here to try to help. I also feel like even though there are some that kind of come and go, there are some that will stay with you your whole life if you haven't quite learned what you need to learn yet. And that's fine too. Right. So sometimes guides are here to help us develop skills. And sometimes they'll just put good teachers in our path or,
Yeah.
Different resources in our path to learn that. Or sometimes we're here to develop like more identity issues, like, who am I, or who am I in relation to the community or something like that. And they'll bring teachers in, or they will bring like the right thing you need to read at the right time or things like that too. So I think there are really common things that we're all trying to learn different things in different ways at different paces. And so I think our guides being really personalized and being able to, kind of know what we need and what we might need down the road,
Right.
is really good. My guides had me buy a house at a time where I said, I don't want to buy a house. I don't want to live here. I thought I was on my way back to California when I first moved here. I was like, this is
I'm
just
so
like
glad
a
you stayed.
stop. I know, right? I'm like, now I can't even imagine. But they were like, we should buy a house. And I'm like, yeah, maybe someday. And this is kind of the way the conversation went, right? And then it was like, you know what? You need to buy a house. And it like over and over and over again. So finally I said, okay, you know what? I will save up some money for a down payment and I'll do this thing. And then, maybe next year I'll look at a house. And then it turned into, you should buy a house now. And I was like, what is happening? I made a plan. that kind of, anyway, it was a really good time for me to buy a house. I didn't know that. I wasn't paying attention to housing markets
right.
and interest rates but it was a really good, and it was a first home. So I got like a really good deal on it and all kinds of things. And then about 5 years later, the housing market got crazy. And I was like, gosh, I'm glad I have a house. And at the
Yeah.
time I was like, no, but I feel like they know kind of what's coming down the pipeline.
For you.
Yes. And so they were like, you know what, let's get a house because we'll have some equity. We'll, like that kind of thing. And I was like, okay, I'll get a house and I'll live in it for 2 years.
And then I'm going.
13 years later, I sold the house. Yeah. So I'm telling you, they just know things, And so I feel like, and certainly I did not start out talking to my guides about huge life things like buying a
No.
house. It started out with little things like, oh, you should call this person, or how about if we go over here and take this class, things like that. But, definitely listen for, like, the more you build trust with them, then the more when you have to do something big, it's not going to be that big because it's an accumulation of a lot of trust.
Right. And I think it goes both ways. I think, like, well, at least with my guides, it was like, are you going to choose to do this?
Yes.
Right. So they're waiting to see which, like, go into any type of theory where every choice changes reality, right? How far down the fractal do we
Yes.
get before they're like, oh, okay, this is the path?
Right.
And so they're waiting to see some things. And I found that, like, one of my guides, I don't do a lot of work with, like, spiritually healing of the earth is how I would say it. And one of my guides that I work with specifically for that, he first showed up as a child, when I was a child, in dreams, but not as him. It was a place. I thought it was like my spirit home. And it was beautiful home, but I never went inside. I was always on the front porch, and there was like mountains and lakes. This was a place for me to get used to and comfortable in. And then slowly over time, he was there.
Oh, I like that.
And over time, that became the place where we do work for the planet together.
I love that.
And so, I mean, it's what you're comfortable with. Nature,
Yes.
I've always loved. And so he presented literally as nature to me with a home, a porch.
that.
I love porches. So, and I would have
Very
never,
welcoming.
I would have never thought that was a spirit guide.
Right.
That's not normally how people describe spirit guides. They're beings, but they don't have to be a being.
Absolutely.
So
And
be
I think
open. Yeah.
The point that I love that you made is, it is kind of, it is our choice.
Yes.
I don't feel like spirit guides are not really here to force their wills on us, even though they can be a little relentless. They're they're here for support, right? They're not here to save us. They're not here to make sure we live the way they think we should live.
Yep.
They're very, like, our choice is really important.
Well, and your guides did not say, buy a house now and expect you to jump 15 seconds after they told you to
Yes.
do that. And at any time, had you said, I am not buying a house, they would have stopped.
Oh, that's very true. Because I think sometimes they definitely know when to stop too,
Yep.
or when to back off. I've actually met guides for other people that have said, we've been with this person through a lot of lifetimes because they're still learning this lesson and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So to them, time is really not that big a deal.
No, it's
So
5
they're-
seconds to
yeah,
them.
They're not going to be like, okay, but you're like the things that your ego will say, or that, society will say, or,
Right.
those shadow aspects that will be like, okay, but by this age, you should have this, this, and this.
Right.
Or you should have accomplished this, this, and this. They're just going to say, oh, well, this isn't working, so we're not going to force it, which I really like. I
Yeah.
also think, like, when guides are talking to you, it is not, it's usually very loving and, or very kind versus like harsh or, super pushy or anything like that. Usually it's something that's kind of expansive or feels, like you're opening your mind or you're opening your heart or that kind of thing. And still they could still be a little sarcastic.
I'm trying to find the best language here. Maybe I can't find it, but while it can be expansive, it can be comfortable, it will feel good to you, whatever that is. Like a porch felt like that's heaven to me, literally. That's how I would imagine heaven, is sitting on a porch in a cabin in a beautiful wilderness. I would love it.
Nice.
So what will feel comfortable to you if you're feeling your intuition being pricked by something that's not comfortable, expansive, it doesn't feel good. Maybe if you're new, seek out some assistance. That would be a place where I would be like, if you have a being that's pestering you to do something that you've said no to, that is not a guide. Guides will not do that to you. And while some people really get caught up and be careful of every being you talk to, there's really easy litmus tests, things like that. Say no to them. What do they do? And
I love that.
your guides are going to be fine with you testing them.
Yes.
If they care about you and want what's best for you, that's common sense that you would be able to test that and be learning how to communicate with them and being able to set appropriate boundaries that you're comfortable with. This is your life. They're aids to you, not the other way around.
Exactly. I also feel like when you're learning how your guides speak to you, it's okay to ask them not just to repeat themselves, but in different ways.
Yeah.
You know, if it's not coming through, or if it's coming through kind of fuzzy, or if you're still not really sure. You know, the thing about intuitive messages, whether they're from guides or, you know, whatever, they tend to repeat till we get them. And so guides will be happy to do that. And I think if you might even say something like, well, I think I got this. I think you're wanting me to do this. Is that right? And kind of, you know, or if that's true, show me a sign today, or, you know, something like that.
And I think it's great to check other avenues of within reason. So I have this feeling and it feels like I should XYZ, buy a house, right? That's a big deal. I wouldn't be just willy-nilly buying a house.
No.
I would be pausing and checking that information, especially for something with that level of magnitude on your entire future.
Yeah.
So really check things like that. But I would ask for it another way that's less usual for you. Within reason. Like if you want to use numerology, okay, I want to see 3s everywhere today.
Right.
Well, if you ask to see the number 1,400,000, right? Like that's less likely that the guys are going to work with you. They're going to be like, be reasonable.
Yeah. How are we going to do that in a
And
natural
they
way?
might, if you really, really need it, very specific, they might find a way to show up that way for you. But they don't really like to jump through unnecessary hoops.
Yes, I agree. And I feel like that's not a good way to build a relationship with anyone, is to try
Right.
to test them, whether they're trying to test you or the other way around. It's just like kind of little by little being a little vulnerable, asking for a little help, seeing what comes through. That feels really important. I would never have bought a house if I hadn't had, you know, like 1,000 other interactions with my guides that led me on the right path. And even then I still argued with them because I'm stubborn and weird. But yeah, I think one of the other things that people think is that, I don't know, like guides are holy or something. And so, and I'm not trying to say they're just like everyday Joes or whatever, but I really do think a lot of them are just people that were humans and they've learned all their lessons, and so they're sticking around to help us, or they've been humans and they're our ancestors. So they totally get, you know, some things that, like, I don't know, putting food on the table and that kind of thing. I don't feel like you have to worry about worshiping your guides. You just have to worry about having a conversation. I don't think that's what they ask. I definitely don't think that's what they require. I think what they want is communication and just sort of co-create what you wanted to accomplish and learn in this life together. They just want to be your wingmen for that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I like it.
I as you were talking, I started, I mean, I had never even considered worshiping guides. So that was a new one for me. I was like, whoa, that's interesting. And I'm guessing you've had that brought to you is why you have
Yes.
thought to say that. So I'm kind of hung up on that of what an interesting concept. Because for me, and I think for modern mystics, we understand we're all interconnected, we're all one, and the worship of any one being or any one entity, energy over another is not really what it's about.
Absolutely.
So that would be another, to me, red flag of
Yes.
something's off here.
Yes, I feel like that is it's a power dynamic instead
Yes.
of a connecting point, and spirit guides are supposed to be helping you connect, not care about whose ego is bigger or, that kind of thing. It's really fascinating because the other thing that comes up sometimes is that when we talk about spirit guides is that people tend to think they're just their dead relatives. And sometimes they are.
Yeah.
But spirit guides can be a lot of things. I have a client whose main spirit guide is a dragon because that's what works for her. And I have another one who talks to like a Native American man that used to live on the land where she resides and things like that. And so you just never know. One of mine is like when I moved into my house, it's a farmer, and he just really wanted me to take care of the land, and I inherited him because he's just attached to the land. So kind of like your lady. I feel like you don't have to only think it's your dead relatives. They can be whatever you need or want them to be.
Angels, right? Like
Yes.
goddesses, gods,
Yes.
all of those. And you don't need to worry. Like the reason I started with that in the beginning of archangels can be many beings is because I think like people will visit past lives and suddenly everyone's Cleopatra. Well, are you Cleopatra or are you tapping into a shared memory that changed the world? Cleopatra had a huge impact and influence.
So true.
So with guides, it's very different. And people get really hung up on what are your guides' names, on things that I kind of find silly personally. If a guide wants you to know their name and that's necessary, they'll tell you. You will, like, your guide is a farmer guy. My guide was a witch, right? That's just how they presented. I didn't go and say, now you can ask their names and they may tell you, but if they're more energy and they're less attached to a form, dragon is as good a name as earth energy.
Absolutely.
So our need as human beings in the third dimensional reality that we exist in, we like names for things. So it's okay if you can just say, hey, can I call you? And you don't have to worry and spend all your energy on what's my spirit guide's name and trying to create this. It's like people have this formula for how the relationship must look from
Yes.
things they've heard from other people. All of that seems unnecessary and wasteful use of that very powerful tool in your modern mystic path.
I agree.
So I think that's my 10 cents or 47. I don't know. I talked a lot.
Awesome. That's okay. Well, we want to hear from you about what kind of signs or conversations or clumsy interactions you've had with your spirit guides. So, drop us a line or follow us on social media and share in a comment or slide into our DMs and let us know.
Woo woo.
I know, right? Or, you can also join us on the Modern Mystic Folk Patreon. We're going to post a little meditation to meet one of your guides. It's only, 15 minutes or so. It's not very long. And please subscribe and leave us a review. And what else?
I think that's it. That's how I met my first guide, by the way, was meditation. So check that out for sure.
Love it.
And today's podcast was sponsored by
Readings and More by Jennafer.
and Being with Gaia. Thanks so much.
Thanks.